UnCanadian by Be Constant Shattered Part 2. That gift was supposed to be our baby Emily. I recalled the last time I sat here, feeling empty, sinking into the cushions, sighing at the familiar fabric beneath me. It had only been a few days ago that I found myself in a hospital room, bewildered. My memory was a blur. I had arrived at the hospital, but how I got there was lost to me like a blank spot in my mind. It was as if someone else had taken control of my body, guiding me on autopilot while my mind shut down, my instincts overriding fear and pain. I had fought with James, desperate for him to see reason, to do something so simple. It was my fault. I had pushed him too hard. Without warning, he snapped, slapping me so hard that a sharp pain cut through my cheek and sent a shockwave through my body. I lost my balance and fell to the floor. I remember him standing over me, my palms pressed against the cold kitchen tiles, willing myself to stand. In that instant, everything changed. The slap triggered something deeper. My stress surged, my blood pressure spiked, and my body went into premature labor. I couldn't stop it. My body began rejecting my unborn child, and I was powerless to stop it. Questions swirled in my mind, terrifying questions about my future, about my baby's future. As nurses and doctors in green-blue scrubs, faces half hidden behind thin plastic shields, buzzed around me. Long hallways, gurneys, and wheelchairs blurred past, and I felt myself being wheeled forward, completely out of control and forced to depend on these strangers. The doctor's smile was soft, reassuring, a calming effect stopping my chaos. His hand rested on my shoulder, warm and steady, as if he could ground me with that simple touch. "It's time to have a baby," he said with a confidence that promised he knew what he was doing. I clung to that assurance, grasping for anything that might grant me to a good outcome. My heart raced and I was afraid, lost. He became my last hope for us, me and my baby. Finally, I met Emily. She lay nestled in a clear incubator beside my hospital bed, surrounded by tubes and monitors, safe from all that was harsh and unkind. Stitched up and dazed, I lay staring into the incubator as if I were gazing at a delicate creature in a terrarium. Her skin had a translucent, almost otherworldly quality, like a rare Amazon frog, so small and unformed that she seemed almost unreal. I couldn't believe this fragile little being was mine. How could this underdeveloped human, this delicate little thing, be my child? Her tiny hands were like fragile roots or tender spring flowers, just beginning to emerge from the soil, reaching out for warmth and light. I feared that even the gentlest touch was capable of harming her. I reached through one of the small circular openings, peekaboo holes for touch. She grabbed my finger, her tiny hand barely wrapping around my pinky, as if I were her lifeline. Her hands, delicate and webbed like a creature clinging to the faintest hope of survival, held on with surprising strength, as if she had been fighting for life since the moment she arrived. In that moment, I marveled at her fragile, almost translucent skin. Emily was as fierce as any creature in the wild, defiant, breathing with a resolve I had never known. She was too small to understand her odds and too determined to let them stop her. It felt surreal. I was staring at this tiny, fragile human being, struggling to grasp that one day she'd be big enough to wear a diaper. The thought felt impossible, that this delicate, almost alien creature might someday grow strong enough to learn to drive or fall in love with a boy band. It had been explained to me that Emily was in the gray zone, facing significant risks. The doctor had said there was a strong possibility, up to 80%, that her condition could take a turn for the worse in the next 24 hours. Those words were the most devastating I had ever heard, heightening my terror even further. All I could do was touch her tiny hand and pray for her to live. If sitting here, never leaving her side, was all I could do, then that's exactly what I would do. I couldn't bear the thought of losing her. I had tried. When the doctor said it was too risky and that it was time to deliver, I called James. No answer. I hoped he might care enough to be there for the birth of his child. I was addicted to that hope, clinging to the belief that maybe, somehow, he would change. But deep down, I knew better. James never answered the phone when he was practicing, not unless it was about him. How long would it even take him to notice I was gone? That didn't matter anymore. Nothing did, except this tiny life in front of me, the only thing that would ever truly matter to me ever again. I captivated, watching as Emily's tiny chest rose and fell, her fragile ribcage expanding with each breath. She was so brave, so strong, breathing as if she had been born to do it. No one told her how hard this was. She seemed defiant, determined to live despite everything stacked against her. Being born too early wasn't going to stop her. No one told my baby the odds. She didn't know how slim her chances were. Why hadn't I seen it coming? Could I have stopped this? Could I have done anything to change what happened next? From that moment, life as I knew it was over. Everything would change from here. It felt like my caseworker had been waiting for this moment, lurking in the shadows. When she finally walked in, her quiet authority made my heart race. Her gaze bore into me as if she already knew everything. From this point on, I realized there would be no hiding, no slipping under the radar, no going back. Not from her, not from anyone. She held a stack of devastating paperwork. Notice of apprehension. The reason? Neglect by the guardian. She wasn't hostile, calm, professional, clipboard in hand, with a female officer standing beside her. The nurses shifted uneasily, as if an unspoken tension whenever Children's Aid Society got involved. Her makeup was flawless, her hair perfectly in place, her face so fresh and rested like she just slept for 20 hours straight. I couldn't understand how she could look so untouched by everything. She looked like the kind of person who'd punish every bad mother without hesitation, without mercy. There was almost a glow around her, a golden halo that made her seem pure, righteous, like she was a saint sent to cast judgment. The cop following behind her commanded attention with an air of challenge. Her gaze was cold and confident, suggesting she relished this power, fully aware that she held the upper hand in the room. "This will be easier for you if you surrender her now," the caseworker said. Her voice oozed sympathy, like she was doing me a favor. Easier? How could this ever get easier? My chest tightened. I could feel the tears start to build. What if I never see my baby again? What will I do without her? I couldn't lose her, not like this. Please, I will do better. I will do more. I heard the pleading, the begging in my voice, and I hated myself for it. But what choice did I have? The caseworker's eyes flicked to her clipboard, as if my pain was just another statistic to document. She stood tall, crossed her arms over her clipboard. "You know why this is happening," she said, not even flinching at my tears. "I've been clear and direct with you this whole time. This isn't a surprise. Delaying this will only hurt more. This will be easier if you surrender her now. This is a temporary decision, and once the judge reviews everything, we can discuss next steps. For now, I need to place the baby into protective custody. I need to keep her safe." "No, not like this, please!" The words escaped me in a rush, a desperate plea that echoed in the sterile room. All I could do was stare, helpless, as my precious little girl was wheeled away in her incubator. And then she was gone. The silence that followed felt unbearable, a heavy weight pressing on my chest. No one spoke, but I could feel it, their eyes on me, judging without a word. It was as if the whole hospital had turned against me, whispers hanging in the air, though no one dared utter a sound. The room emptied, leaving me alone with my spiraling thoughts. How could they justify taking my child for something James did? Yes, he'd been rude, too harsh at times, but this was too much. What had I done? Was it because of him? James had just been his usual antisocial self, pushing people away without even trying. People didn't understand him. They didn't see his genius. I glanced across the room and caught sight of her, the blonde attendant. Was it because of what happened? A flicker of sadness or pity crossed her face. I didn't deserve that look. For a split second, my eyes locked with hers. She was about my age, yet I felt decades older. In that brief exchange, it was as if she saw everything, every misstep, every wrong turn. This was the bed I'd made, the path I'd taken. All of it was my doing. I should have done more. I see that now. Carrying a child for 9 months should have been simple, but even that had slipped through my fingers. I'd failed as a mother, as a woman, and the worst part, they all knew it. Would I ever see Emily again? She was born so fragile and tiny. Would she survive the next 24 hours? Had I already lost her forever? Tears stung my eyes as I whispered, "Emily, I'm sorry, this is all my fault. Will you ever forgive me?" To all those watching, I know what you're thinking. How could any mother let things get this bad? But if you think you know my story, trust me, you don't. So if you're curious to see how it all unravels, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. The truth isn't what you expect.